Welcome to Tech Talk Live, a resource produced by Vision Forward. Low vision and blindness technology, tips, tricks, and information presented in a way that makes sense. And now, here are your hosts, Cory and Luke.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Tech Talk Live. My name is Luke.
Today is monotone day.
I am very happy to be here today.
You sound thrilled to be here.
On this September the 2nd. How are you today, Cory?
I'm doing great. I thought I'd try to do the opposite of it.
That's wonderful to hear.
Is there is there a reason? What's going on?
Well, here's the thing.
Okay.
So last time, if you remember, I came in very hot.
Oh, you did. You were like fired out of a cannon.
I was just ready.
You were.
So I thought I needed to just balance things out in the universe.
Okay.
You know. So
well,
this time came in a little cold.
Anyway, next time we could just have warm.
Well,
not hot, not cold. Let's just.
I guess next time we'll go neutral.
Okay.
We're almost doing a live reenactment of the old story with the bears and which is quite relevant because we did talk about bears last time. But you know, the story with the porridge and the bears.
Yeah, Goldilocks. Got it.
That's the one.
Yeah, Goldie.
Yeah, old Goldilocks. Yeah.
Goldilocks.
Haven't thought about her for a long time. But she blazed the trail and we're just following it.
That's true.
So welcome. It's Tech Talk Live, in case you didn't realize. And
what is the date today?
well, today is September 2nd, Cory.
is.
I'm glad you asked. Because it's the fine month of September has begun.
It has started.
And
kids are back in school.
the kids are back in
teachers
school.
back.
I bet that's a relief for parents such as yourself, is it,
Yeah,
Cory?
well, except with that comes all of the school activities, volleyball every night, or swimming, baseball.
Just say no. Just say no to those.
Okay.
No.
Oh,
no.
just say
The
no.
kids say, hey,
Okay.
Dad, I've got a swim meet. No.
No, go in your room and play video games.
That's responsible parenting.
Yes,
That's what we call responsible parenting. Somebody said they love the big brain. For those of you who can't see, we have a giant brain behind us today. Thank you, John, for your support of our brain.
Yeah.
This is actually an image of Cory's brain.
It is.
You can see if you look very closely, you will see. Well, obviously it's very large, yes, but you will see very closely that there is a storage area for assistive technology knowledge in there.
Yeah.
So yes, if you are sighted, make sure to take a close look at that. And yes, so it's Tech Talk Live.
It is.
This is your #1 resource for. Let's say it's your #1 live resource for technology, assistive technology, tips, tricks, and such. Because as far as I know,
produced by Vision Forward.
Produced by Vision Forward. Let's get very specific. As far as I know, we are the only live resource for these things.
I think we are really the only consistently live.
Yeah.
Video,
yeah.
Zoom,
yes.
on YouTube.
This is getting way too specific now.
And audio podcast as well. I don't think anyone else is doing all that.
Yes.
And two people named Luke and Cory. So
yes, at Vision Forward in Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Anyways, all right. Let's.
Yes.
What are we here for today?
I honestly have no idea. Cory.
Okay.
What are we here for today?
We are here today to talk about assistive technology. We have a guest today. We have Dr. Patricia Grant.
And I am very excited because I used to work with Dr. Grant at the Chicago Lighthouse in a past life. Dr. Grant, would you care to say hello to our assembled guests here today?
Hello. Is it still monotone day?
It's up to you. If you feel in a monotone mood, then you just go for it.
No monotone. Hi, everyone. I am Dr. Tricia Grant, and I am the Vice President of Research at the Chicago Lighthouse. I'm also the Director of Research at Wicab, Inc., the developers of the BrainPort, which we're going to talk about today.
We sure are. And I'd like our guests who are joining us today to note that once again, we have brought on somebody far more qualified than ourselves.
Absolutely.
To do the work for us. Yeah,
it's not difficult.
To
do.
Well, that's very true. Yeah. But it's it's good for us because we get to sit back and relax and let somebody who knows what they're talking about take the lead. So great.
Before we have Dr. Grant take the lead here, two quick things. Number one, just a reminder: we are no longer doing ACVREP credit.
Wait a second. Wait.
No,
It's sad.
It is sad.
Yep.
But so just know that there is no entrance and exit codes today. Although I guess we could give them to you if you want them just for fun. But
I do have one thing I'd like to flash up on screen here.
Okay.
Today we are talking about the BrainPort.
Oh,
and we have a very
fancy.
large BrainPort sign on the image here. Oh wait, I kind of wanted a sound effect to go with it, but sadly I didn't
have time.
Nope.
So that is first and foremost. Just remember, no more ACVREP. Second of all, our famous Dr. Grant's. I know she is aware of our joke hour because I know she tunes in and watches every single Tech Talk, and then watches them on YouTube as well. But Luke, hit us with the joke of the Corner Joke Hour Day thing.
The Corner, is that the official name? Right?
Yep. Well,
Corner Joke Hour Day thing. Yes, yes, we do. The joke of the day, Corner Hour, is the following.
Yes.
What do you call a pig who does karate? I said, what do you call a pig who does karate? Anybody who knows the answer, please feel free to put
Dr.
it
Grant, you
in
can
the
also
chat. Dr.
jump
Grant,
in
yes, if you... Oh, wait, I'm sorry, Dr. Grant, you were too late. We already have an answer.
I was going to say pork chop.
You would have got it right, but sadly, Margarita was there before you.
Quick on the fingers.
Yes, she was very quick on the fingers. Let's do a bonus round.
Oh, okay.
Let's do a bonus round. Dr. Grant, please, fingers on the buzzers here.
Okay.
Let's see. The bonus round is the following.
Yep.
Hold on, I need to get the joke here.
Would you like me to tell the joke?
No, I've got it. Why did the pony not sing the lullaby? Why did the pony not sing the lullaby? Answers on buzzers. We will have a countdown timer. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. No correct answers. The answer was because she was a little horse. Hey! Somebody jumped in there with he was horse. Yes, Melanie, thank you. We will accept that, and you have won today's prize, which is
a pony.
A year subscription to a pony.
Yeah, a year supply of ponies. Every week you will get a pony delivered to your door.
Yes, you will.
Including and pork chops as well.
And pork chops. Yes, yes.
Congratulations.
Please email us at thisisn'treal@don'tactuallyemailus.com for your prize. Thank you very much.
Coupon code PIG.
Somebody actually did say good. Somebody else said good job to Melanie. So Melanie is getting all the praise today.
All right.
We should probably stop talking. Actually, there is two things I do want to just quickly say before we let Dr. Grant take it away with the BrainPort. Number one, on September 30th, we have a special edition of Tech Talk, where we will be hosting a panel. It's part of a larger event that we're doing called Vision Connections. For those of you who don't know, Cory and I both work at a nonprofit in Milwaukee, Wisconsin called Vision Forward Association. And we have an event called Vision Connections going on. Tech Talk Live for September the 30th will be a panel between Cory, myself, Sam CV from the Blind Life YouTube channel, and Peter Tusick from Humanware. And we will be discussing the assistive technology that has been useful to, I don't want to say us because I'm not visually impaired, but to Cory, Sam, and Peter throughout their lives.
Yeah, how we've used technology creates possibility.
There you go. That's the theme. Yes. And we may also have another guest on, but I'm not sure yet because I haven't heard back from them.
And just be aware that besides the special Tech Talk at 11 a.m. Central Time on the 30th, there will also be a session prior to that starting at 10 a.m. I believe it's 10 a.m.
Yeah, that's right.
And that's going to be focusing on mobile devices and apps that can help individuals with iPhones and Android devices. And then after our Tech Talk Live, there'll also be a little video talking about Vision Forward specifically, and then some breakout rooms of specific staff for people to come in and talk about. That might be a little bit more for our local folks, but for those outside of Wisconsin, the 10 a.m. and 11 a.m. Central Time sessions may be beneficial.
So that's that. And then quickly, we have an Orcam Demo Day on September 14th. So anybody local to the area, please feel free to get in touch with us at infocus@vision-forward.org. I'll put that in the chat. And if you want to come and check out Orcam and see what they've got going on, it's going to be between 2 and 6 on September the 14th. And you do need to register. But like I say, just email if you're interested or call. I'll put my number in as well. And there will be discounts available on the day.
Yeah, and check out our YouTube channel if you're interested in what Orcam is and how it works. We've got a bunch of Orcam related videos as well that you can take a peek at before you come in. and get hands-on.
But we are not here to talk about
we are not.
Orcam. So let's stop talking about that.
Let's just stop talking in general.
Let's just stop talking. All right, Dr. Grant, it's all... No, I'm not going to throw you under the bus like that. But yes, Dr. Grant, thank you very much for joining us today. Today, we're going to be talking about the BrainPort, which you have been involved with for quite some time now. And I was actually surprised to see on the BrainPort website that it's been a thing since like 2007, which I wasn't aware that, you know, that it'd been going on for so long. But let's start, if you don't mind, by going over, let's do this, what the BrainPort is, and tell us a bit about Wicab as well, the company who make the BrainPort.
Okay, so I have the BrainPort with me in my hand. It is a wearable assistive technology, and it goes on the head. There is a camera that's located on the front of the device, and it's a digital camera, so it has all of the controls as a camera would, and those controls are actually located on top of the headset so that they're easy to access. They have different feelings for them, so they're different. You can differentiate which one is which, and those control the power. It also controls the camera, so there's zoom. You could do something like edge enhancement, change the contrast settings, things like that. So all of that is located up at the top. And then the most important part of this is the intraoral device, and we call it an IOD, and I'm just going to move it up close if anyone can view it. This goes on your tongue, and the silver part here is actually 394 electrodes, and these electrodes provide stimulation to the tongue depending on what the camera is viewing. So the camera talks to this part and it relays the information to the tongue, and then that information sent to the brain, and then the person's able to distinguish what they're looking at.
Excellent. So the idea is, and I think we have mentioned this device previously as well, but the idea is, as strange as it might sound, that a user can, now I don't know if you like to use this terminology, but the simplest way to put it is a user can learn to see using their tongue. And now we say see, and obviously this isn't going to be your normal vision, because however much you might want to actually see with your tongue, it's probably not going to be possible, although with genetic enhancement, who knows.
Sure.
But yes, you can basically, let's put it like this, you can discern shapes and objects using the tongue.
Right. Yes, it provides really a shape recognition.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah. And I think we talked a little bit when we had Dr. Lang and Dr. Troik on about the ICP? No. ICP?
ICVP.
ICVP.
Yeah, VP. Thank you.
Yes.
We had the same, I think, kind of discussion where the word see, it's you know, obviously it's not providing quote unquote normal vision whatsoever, but it's a new way to bring in information and a new way to see. So I would assume that the BrainPort sort of is a very similar, you know, falls into the similar category.
Right. That's right. Right. So it's not vision, even though some users will use that term like, oh, I can see what's on the table. But yeah, it's not the see that we typically understand see to mean. It's a different type of vision.
Yeah.
So we're calling it ultra low vision is really the term that's being adopted for this level.
Cool. That sounds, it almost sounds like a superhero type of
engage ultra low vision.
That's cool. So I think we could class this as a sensory substitution device. So rather than seeing with your eyes, you're seeing quote unquote with your tongue. Patricia and I once met a man who told us that he could see with his fingers, which, I mean, you kind of get the point. I mean, if you are a person who's blind, you know, you can kind of feel objects and basically you're seeing them with your fingers. Patricia, I hope you don't mind, but we do generally just go with questions as they come in. So are you cool with answering stuff? Because I see we've already got some excellent. I see we've already got some good questions here. So from Belinda, we have a question, which I think is a really good question here.
Yeah.
And I don't know if there's been any studies on this, but if you are perceiving objects on the tongue,
yes,
is that information going to the visual cortex, or is it happening in a different part of the brain?
No, it is a really great question. Thank you for that. So what we found is that when someone first starts to use this, so someone who is blind is using this, they're going to at very first, before they have any training, the way they're processing the information is in the areas of the brain that process tactile information. After training, then it is processed in the visual cortex. So there is a shift, and that's why we do training. That's why training is so important, because this is it's a trained mechanism. So it's not something that you could just put on your tongue and then go off into the world and understand what you're viewing. You have to have some training, and the training is really building blocks of training. We've done a lot of research to determine what is the right amount of training, and we found 10 hours is sufficient to really understand and interpret the signals that you're experiencing on your tongue.
Okay, so oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to add in a person who is sighted will always interpret this information in the areas of the brain that interpret tactile information.
Okay, so that shift wouldn't happen with
right.
them. That's actually really interesting. Yeah. So with the training, so you said 10 hours there. Now, tell me if I'm wrong here, but I just want to try and clarify the process. So I think what happens is, let's say somebody is interested in trying out the BrainPort. So first of all, they would have to meet the qualifications, which is to say, like, if somebody has too much usable vision, then it wouldn't be an appropriate device. Is that kind of correct with that? And you can give us more specifics on that in just a second. But so assuming that you qualify, you can get a 1-hour demonstration to see if it's something which might work for you. And that can happen at different facilities across the country. And I think there's also maybe testing in like Italy and China as well.
Yes, that's right.
Okay. And then after that, then a person could do the 10 hours training. Now that would be a paid process, at the end of which then they could decide whether they wanted to move forward with purchasing the device, in which case the training would be deducted from the price, or if they don't want to move forward, then they just go on their merry way. Does that sound like did I get that right?
Yeah, that's correct. The one part of this is that this is it's a medical device, so it does require a prescription from a medical provider. So that's the other part. So you and we will help everyone through that process. If they're ever interested in it, we will do screening, and then we're always willing to talk to any provider and explain what it is. But it is a prescribed device.
Okay. So is that because of the intraoral device part that goes in the mouth? Okay, yeah, that makes perfect sense. Just from the chat here, Jason says, shape recognizer is what I interpret. I'm not entirely sure. Is that, Cory, any ideas?
Yeah, I'm not sure if he's just, I don't know if Jason's been a user of it and saying the same thing.
Saying he would call it a shape recognizer.
Or that's what he would say, yeah, I'm not sure.
If you want to clarify, Jason, then feel free to put that in the chat. Another comment here from Belinda, question, should I say, from Belinda. Another good question. Belinda is on the ball here today.
I know, she is.
She really is. Okay, the question is the device going to work differently for someone who is congenitally blind versus somebody who becomes blind later in life? Dr. Grant.
I have the answer.
Hey,
yeah.
I knew you would.
That another really great question. We studied this also in our clinical trials. So the answer is no. You're not going to interpret it differently. And that's because this is not actually vision. And even though you may have some visual memory when you're experiencing the sensation, you might be reminded of something that you viewed before. Like we had someone who we were training to walk on a track, and as he was using it, he started having the memory and describing what his memory was, and it was pretty equivalent to where he actually was walking. So that is true, but because it's a different type of experience, it's a stimulation on your tongue, you'll assign new meanings to things even if you don't have that exact visual memory. So if you continue to look at something like a doorway and you didn't view a door, if you never viewed a doorway before, your brain will be trained to know what a doorway feels like on your tongue. So we found that there is no difference between someone. Actually, some of our best and highest performers were people who are congenitally blind. So
that's really cool.
I almost think, and this is just total unintelligent guess here.
I wouldn't say unintelligent,
but I would guess that somebody who's congenitally blind potentially would I can understand why they would do better. Not having, so side note really quick, I have a V2 BrainPort and was trained on it years and years and years ago, and had used it for a bit, and I could see where first of all, my level of vision, even though I have a little bit of light and color perception, it actually, in my opinion, I think was too much to really use the device successfully. But I could see where sometimes not having some visual memories kind of blocking or interrupting or confusing. I could see where it might be easier to use if you don't have some of those memories and some of those things. But
yeah, that does make sense. And that's really along the lines of why this device is only for people who have light perception or no light perception, because those other, if you have hand motion, you can detect hand motion, that would interfere, or the device would interfere with some of that. So it's kind of along the same lines of what Cory was just talking about.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. All right, a couple more things in the chat here. Jason says that he's not a user, but from what he has read, that shapes populate in the platform that the tongue feels tactilely. Yes, that sounds about right. We should definitely talk a little bit more about that. But we also have a comment here from Chad, who asks that he says his son is 12 and very technologically inclined. He has been blind since birth. Is there a recommendation on when to start with something like this? Dr. Grant, what do you think?
Yeah, so, well, we don't have a recommendation because we have users who, one of my best users was in his 80s. So there isn't a best age that we're aware of, but children learn things quicker. They adapt to things quicker. So we haven't studied and compared children versus adults, but I think if you just kind of think theoretically how quickly children can adapt and learn things. Even children who learn new languages learn them so much quicker. The brain is more plastic, so at a younger age. So starting earlier is better. It also becomes, part of their lives. They don't have to adapt to it later. The youngest we've worked with so far is 4 years old. So the training had to be spread out a lot because you can't train a 4-year-old the same as you would an adult.
For 10 hours. I could see 12-year-old being a good age.
Yeah, that seems like a great age.
I think 12 is a good age too. Yeah. And then the motivations are, are going to be different if you're as a child, and your goals are going to be different. So I think trying to get this into the school system, with children using it in the schools, and also sighted children seeing other children using this type of technology, I think is just a benefit. So I support younger age starting this.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. We're getting more questions. We're getting a bunch of questions coming in here. But before I move forward with asking you to answer those, I do just want to try and clarify kind of how the BrainPort works, just for those who might not be familiar, because we kind of talked around the edges, but I'd like to get into specifics a little bit more. Sure. So would you like to describe kind of what a user might expect?
Yeah, absolutely. So on the, so they place this on the surface of the tongue, and it's on a cord so that it can be taken out when someone wants to talk or eat. You shouldn't do that when you have it in your mouth, but it's really easily removable. And then what you experience on the tongue is when the camera is actually in grayscale. So I didn't mention that. It's an important part of this. So even though everything that it's viewing is in color, it changes to grayscale, and then the electrodes work as like on off. So if the area is white, it is on. So that means it's producing stimulations on your tongue. If the areas that are dark are off, so there's no stimulation. So it's the difference, the contrast that helps the person to understand the shape. And I mentioned earlier, because someone might say, what if you're not in a high contrast setting?
Sure.
So we have the edge enhancement technology on this, and edges give a high stimulation or produce high contrast onto edges of different objects so that it stands out. So even if you have something like, white against beige, or, something like that, where it's not going to pop out, the technology will help that happen. So then they'll feel that on their tongue.
Okay, great.
So, you mentioned previously about looking at a doorway and then if you didn't have a visual memory of a doorway, but if we had an individual who had the IOD in and was looking kind of at a wall with a doorway, if I'm not mistaken, basically they would feel kind of a rectangle shape on their tongue, right? So they kind of see the doorway versus the blank wall. Is that
exactly? Yeah,
okay?
That's right. And I was just going to give an example. So thank you for doing that. But
no,
that's
sorry,
no, that's exactly right though. You said it better than I would have. So yeah, that's so that's correct. So it's the different shapes that they feel, and then they apply meaning to them. So you have to use other contextual clues, you know where you're at, and there are other ways to get other information. So we always say this is paired with a cane. This is never to replace a cane. The idea is that this can help detect objects and shapes that are beyond the reach of a cane. So just another example of you're walking down the sidewalk, you're using your cane, you may be able to detect an obstacle before your cane reaches it, but then between the use of the cane and of the BrainPort, you can determine whether it's an obstacle that you can walk over or if it's something that you have to go around. So it's all the different cues together help understand the environment better.
What's the typical distance of the camera when you're talking about using a cane? I'm just curious, how far out in front of you, or is it kind of reliable information that you're getting?
Yeah, so the good thing about this is because it's a camera, it has zoom function to it. So even if you're far away, you can zoom into
cool.
or zoom out. So it really is just, it really is up to the camera and how you're using the zoom.
So yeah, we're using this as another tool in our toolbox when we're kind of moving around in conjunction with our other orientation and mobility skills, in conjunction with our cane, and it's a way to give us more information in a similar manner to the ICBP that we talked about a few weeks ago. It's another tool there to give us some more information. I always see the image where there is a user who is looking at a like a teacup or something like that. So it shows the image, and I think it does a good job actually of kind of visually describing what's going on. So the user is looking at a teacup, and you see the teacup being drawn on the intraoral device, so that the user can kind of perceive that. Cool. Sure. Yeah, so I mean, I think that is a good image because it is a weird concept to explain to somebody. But once you understand it, then it does make sense. One question I have is this. How is a user able to gauge how far away an object might be?
Yeah, so that is a difficult part of this, is to know, because and to be able to view all objects in the room is going to be difficult because there's going to be other noise that comes into view. So they have to kind of know what they're looking for too. In addition to also kind of realizing what else may be in the room. There could be different people in the room. We've had users who can recognize people who are close to them just because of their body shape or their height. And they can differentiate between other family members. So it really depends on what you're trying to view. And I just want to go back to the coffee cup, because it's just, you could think of it as being able to detect a coffee cup is in front of you, but it's also you're able to identify the handle of the coffee cup, how large it is, if it's close to you, if it's far away. If something is closer to you, it's going to take up more space on your tongue. And if it's further away, it's going to take up less space. So that's another way that you can detect the distance. So as you move closer to it, you'll feel it getting larger on your tongue, and that's kind of how you know distance.
Okay. Cool. Yeah. So it's basically kind of it comes with experience. It sounds like if you've got some idea of how large the object is and how large it would normally represent on the tongue, then that will give you an idea of kind of how close or far away it is.
Right. So you don't have to know that beforehand. It's the space that you'll feel on your tongue, because larger objects will take up more space. Okay. So the stimulation is going to present on more areas of the tongue. And then as it gets smaller, then you'll know that it's further away.
Got you. Would it be the case, because when we were talking with Drs. Troik and Lane, we were talking about how the technology might possibly advance in the future, and one possibility there, because that was an implant of an electrode implant on the visual cortex, was that if you increase the number of electrodes, then you would increase the resolution of the image. But with this device, obviously it's slightly different. Do you think more electrodes would increase the resolution, or?
Yeah, no, not necessarily, because you also have to think more electrodes also introduce more noise. So the important part is that it's picking up the important parts of the area, and not so much more is better. It's how much can you simplify the information in the room, and that's why that's why a feature like edge enhancement is important, because it's helping to do that.
Yeah, that's interesting. So it's more on the software AI piece of this device than the hardware piece. The hardware is probably exactly where it needs to be, both the camera and the IOD, but it's the software processing all that and cleaning it up. And
okay, so check this out. This is my vision for the future of BrainPort here. Okay. Yeah. So you know, recently we've seen some advancement in terms of AI being able to detect where specific objects are, right? So it can identify specific objects, like we spoke with who are the super LiDAR folk, or the
Shane
from
that company,
from them. Yeah, we can't remember, but they had a LiDAR app that was able to tell you distances and also specific objects. I know that Orcam have been working on a similar thing for the Orcam. Yeah. So do you think maybe a future development of BrainPort might be in the same area? You might be able to say, hey, BrainPort, I want to find a door, and then it'll be like, okay.
No, absolutely. We've written a few grants for that already, that were not funded at the time, but we did a pilot of that. We did an exit sign and bathroom signs. And so the person had an external, so they had like a tablet. We should have used something smaller in retrospect, but the tablet was working at the time. So, and then so they use the BrainPort. They're still receiving stimulation of the environment on their tongue, but then as they scanned the room, when they passed an exit sign, the tablet then vibrated. So let them know there's the exit sign, there's the way out. And then the information on the tongue was still useful to create the pathway to the sign. And as you got closer, it vibrated more. And if you got further away, it stopped. So, yeah, we definitely have an interest in doing that and incorporating that. It's just, you know, development is costly.
Yes, yes, it is. I don't know why I said that like I know, because I've never developed anything in my life, but there we go. Let's get through to some of these chat questions and such, because we still have some coming in. So Douglas asks the big question.
Oh no!
To emphasize, it's a big question. He put it all in caps.
Yeah,
what
I see.
Is the cost of the device?
Yeah, scream it, because he was scared.
This is okay. Yeah, this is a big one. So the device is $10,000, and it is unfortunately not covered by insurance at the present time. We have tried, and we will continue to try to to ask Medicare, Medicaid to cover this, but I think that's the problem with all assistive technology in the US, I should say, is that these things are not covered. So it is an expensive piece of technology. It is expensive to make. They're all handmade still. We have people who have been doing this for several years, many years, experts who are putting these together. So it just is expensive to manufacture, and we don't, they're not sent off to anywhere else to make, where they're all made in our laboratory in-house.
Okay, and I think so Wicab, who make the BrainPort, I think they're based out of Wisconsin. Is that correct?
That's right.
Madison at one point. I don't know if
actually Middleton, Wisconsin is where they're located, and the company was founded by Dr. Paul Baccarita, who is, I think he's referred to as the godfather of sensory substitution, because he really figured out.
Godfather of anything. There is a BrainPort user here in Madison who I've spoken with a number of times and follow online. And I would say, man, he's a real interesting user of the BrainPort. It's interesting to read some of his posts. One of the examples that I've seen him do, and I thought was pretty cool, is he'd go out and check the moon and the eclipse and stuff.
Yes,
and
I know who you're talking about.
Yeah. And he's able, like, sometimes he's able to see it, but then other times he'll say there's too much cloud cover. So like he can tell even that when the clouds are covering the moon. And so just he's a real. It's fun to watch some of the creative ways he uses the BrainPort. That's just another example of.
No, I agree. There are so many creative ways, and those are things that we don't test in the, in a clinical trial.
Mm-hmm.
We don't test those types of things because they're unique and they're individual. But when you're talking to longtime users, some of the things they tell you are just really, they still fascinate me. It's just, I'm always, I'm still great to hear those stories. So I try to keep in touch with users so I can hear some of those stories because they're motivating. I think they're nice to hear.
Yeah. Okay. Next question. So Chad, who was previously talking about his son, who is 12, would like to know the process if his son was interested in pursuing it further. Chad says, would I just reach out to my son's eye doctor? And Chad is in Wisconsin here.
Good question.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. He's in Wisconsin. Yeah, so he can reach out to his doctor. He can also reach out to us. There's contact information. I can give the website. We start the screening process, so he can do the screening process and talk to his doctor at the same time. So it's www.wicab.com, and there's a contact us information there, and there's a screening survey that you can take right online that will let you know if you're eligible.
Okay, fantastic.
Maybe we can get that in the chat.
I'll go ahead and put wicab.com in the chat here.
Yeah, that would be great.
So, Dr. Grant, do you have an email address that people might be able to contact you via?
Yeah,
email?
so should I put it in the chat too?
Yeah, if you don't mind. Yeah,
I don't mind.
Okay, great. So let's look at some of the other questions here while Dr. Grant is doing that. Belinda had asked if the device has been tested by those in the O&M field. Is it safe to use in conjunction with a long white cane or dog guide? And we did answer that.
Yeah.
And Belinda says, thank you, that answers my question. And then we have Nuruddin. And again, I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly there. If not, then please tell me I'm stupid in the chat. And Nuruddin asks, okay, and I think this is a pertinent question that we have here, and one that I think people may have been thinking about as we've been going on here. So you've got the BrainPort headband on, fine.
Yes.
And you've got the intraoral device in the mouth.
Yep.
And you're feeling things on the tongue. But the question Nuruddin has, okay, so you've got the IOD in your mouth, on the tongue. And Nuruddin does say attached to the tongue. I'm going to say it's not attached.
Yeah,
it's resting on the tongue. So there's no kind of attachment.
Spit it out at any time.
Yeah, you can remove it at any time.
So, but don't spit it out.
Well, don't spit it out.
You can just take it out.
But Nuruddin does say, doesn't having this IOD on the tongue interfere with spontaneity, i.e. other processes, if you have to take it out every time that you want to talk or eat and things like that?
Yeah. That is true. And it's been a long time company debate of whether or not to have this wireless or wired. The last time we discussed it, we actually discussed it with focus group, and there was concern that the IOD would get lost if it's wireless. So we opted to keep it wired. And at first I was a little back and forth about it, but I also noticed people who use the Orcam, a lot of people have the Orcam connected to like a lanyard because they're even though it's wireless. There's concern you lose it and there goes your device, and I think that's a concern. So
definitely one thing which I'd be worried about if it was wireless is the chance of swallowing it accidentally. But I guess whether it was wired or wireless, you would still have to take it out in order to do anything that involves the mouth.
I think one thing to remember is this most likely, and Dr. Grant, please tell me if I'm wrong, but this isn't really a device that you would be wearing all the time, right? This is a device, where maybe you walk into a room and you use it to find a chair or to learn a little bit about the room. But once you've learned and sat down, you're taking it out. You know what I mean? So it's not something that's always going to be in. So I think there will be times where having the IOD may cause some little bit of inconvenience. But I don't think it's going to happen as often as you probably think, just because you're not wearing it all the time.
That's such a great point, Cory, and I agree with you. And we'd have to put it on like a type of retainer, and it would have to be fitted to the mouth. So it would become, because like Luke was saying, there's the additional risk then that you're going to swallow it. So and then it's choking hazard and all of that. So
you're always going to have something to take out. It doesn't matter if it's wireless or wired. Something's coming. Unless you can unless you can come up with an IOD that stays there and doesn't inhibit talking and eating, you're always going to be removing something. So you might as well have it.
You need a wireless one that straps around the tongue.
Oh, maybe.
There you go. Problem solved. You'd speak with a lisp, but you'd be fine. You'd be fine.
Maybe it has little wings and it flies out of your mouth and just hovers next to you when you don't need it, right? I mean, if we're getting crazy, that's things big here.
All right, I'll put that on the list.
And then you go, oh, here comes the plane. You know how when you're a feed a kid?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. This is gone out of control.
It did. All right. This is why I'm not a doctor.
Well, people do say dream big. So
well, that's I'm the big idea guy. Most of them are garbage.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Most of them
never had a good one. But...
Yeah, most of them are flying IOD. But
all right, we've got some more questions here in the question and answer. And as usual, thank you everybody for all your questions.
Absolutely.
We do really love having an active audience participation because it makes us feel like people are actually listening, which is nice. And it also helps to stimulate our minds and our conversation. So we have a really excellent audience, I have to say.
We really do. We have one of the most active audiences.
I think so. Yeah. So thank you to everybody. Cool. And so we have a question here from Pavel Life. I'm sorry, Pavel Lee, I think, or something like that. Again, apologies for my terrible pronunciation. Who asks, have there been any negative side effects observed in stimulating the tongue with electric currents? Another excellent question. Yeah, Dr. Grant, are you electrocuting people?
We are not electrocuting. No, we are definitely not electrocuting people. Okay. We have studied this. We did a clinical trial. You have to do clinical trials for FDA clearance. So one of the main parts of clinical trial is evaluating safety. So for safety, we had to evaluate what are the consequences of long-term stimulation. So it's well studied. There's nothing permanent. I would say the tongue is a little sensitive. We found that it could be sensitive to taste afterwards. If you eat something like spicy or salty, you might feel that sensation a little bit more. But all of that, none of it stayed at all. It all went away. And that was very important to FDA. If we had any long-term adverse events, so we would have a lot of problems getting the device cleared. So it's well studied. No long-term events.
Excellent. I just want to, there's a few things I want to pick up on there. Number one, we're talking electrical stimulation, yes, but we're talking very, very gentle here. So it's nothing to be concerned about.
Even on its highest setting. I mean, you feel it, and that first time you put it in, it's
a bit of a surprise. Maybe.
It is a bit of a surprise, but it's not. I mean, it's not painful, but you do want to make sure it's on its lowest intensity setting when you try it.
Yeah, that's another good point, is that you can control the sensitivity or the stimulation level. So you can turn it down or up depending on your personal need. There was another point I wanted to make about that, but I forgot.
Well, let me jump in the meantime with something as well. While you remember. Wait, I forgot what I would say as well.
All right, let me go.
I'm sorry. No, I remember that. Go along until somebody remembers.
Go around.
Exactly. What I wanted to say was that the tongue was chosen for a very specific reason.
That's what I wanted to say too.
Okay, great. Okay, we're on the same page here. Yeah. So basically, the reason that the tongue was chosen was because it is so sensitive and because it's a good conductor, because it's moist. It seems strange that the tongue was chosen. You might think, oh, why didn't they choose, the shoulder? But there was a very specific reason behind that. Is that correct, Dr. Grant?
Yes, that's exactly what I was going to say when I lost my thought. Thank you for picking it up. And because of all those features that you just mentioned of the tongue, the level of electricity that's needed is much lower than if you were using a fingertip or another part of the body.
Did this am I wrong, Dr. Grant, did this technology originated outside, not for people with visual impairment, or?
So we also have a BrainPort balance device for people who have vestibular disorders. So the way the stimulation on the tongue would work in that case is that it would help balance someone out. So if they're leaning to one side or the other, it'll produce a stimulation to help the person straighten out. But that is not in the United States. That's outside of the US.
Okay. We have another question here from Den. Oh, actually, one thing. I'm sorry, Dennis. I will get to your question in just a second. But I just wanted to say, you do see a lot of assistive technology devices that say they are like an FDA approved device category 1 or something like that. I might be getting that wrong. Maybe you can elucidate a little bit, but that's completely different to the BrainPort. Those devices have not been through FDA trials. As far as I know, it's really just a case of saying, hello, we are an electronic device. So even though it sounds kind of fancy, it really isn't. But BrainPort has been through a much more rigorous process in order to get FDA clearance. So I just wanted to kind of clarify that.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, that's very true. It took a very long time, but we did a multi-site trial across the United States. So
okay, Dennis's question, what is the cost? Okay, and does insurance help? Actually, Dennis, we did already cover that. So Dr. Grant did tell us the cost is $10,000, and unfortunately at the moment insurance does not help. Is there any grants or anything like that which might help with funding, or any other funding sources?
So we have no, we don't offer any grants, or we're not connected to any funding agencies, but a lot of people have been successful with crowdfunding. So doing personal funding has really been successful. It's a good way for people to purchase the device.
Yeah, and for people who don't know what crowdfunding is, the idea is that you basically set up a web page that has information about you, information about what you're trying to do, information about how much money you're trying to raise, and you share that web page with other people. And so that could be your friends and family, but also people that you don't know are able to access it to see you and see whether they might want to contribute a little. The idea is that if you get a lot of people contributing a little bit of money, then that lessens the burden on nobody has to contribute too much, but it can raise a lot of money. So I know that a lot of people use GoFundMe, for an example.
I'd say that's probably the biggest, most well known.
Yeah, so cool. Okay, Douglas has another question here. Douglas asks, what kind of protections are needed when the IOD is removed from the tongue? I don't think anything. I mean, you can just take it off the tongue, right, Dr. Grant?
No protections.
Is there a little pouch or something? It wasn't something to just for keeping it somewhat. Well,
yes, there's there's a case for it. I don't know. The case is way back there. It's behind me, but there's a hard case that and the case is really nice. We took a lot of time to find a case that looks nice, that can really protect the device. So it's a hard case. And then there's like a little box that clips onto the IOD so that it's not getting, dirty and things like that. And then we have a cleaning protocol that we, teach everyone to keep the device clean as you're taking it in and out of your mouth.
Okay, excellent. All right, I haven't got too much time left here, but let's just talk a little bit about the training process for people who might be interested in pursuing this further. Okay. So like we've been saying, you can do the hour demonstration to give you a very kind of brief idea. And I assume those are free, are they, Dr. Grant?
Yes, the hour demo is free.
Yes.
And where those hour demonstrations, is there multiple sites across the United States?
There are many sites across the United States. Will help the individual find the spot that's closest to them. The Chicago Lighthouse is a training location, so I'm just throwing that out there.
Yes, yes. And I think you can see a list of all the locations on the Wicab website as well. Yeah. Cool. Perfect. And then say that a person has done that and they're like, you know what, this seems like it might be something beneficial. So they decide to do the 10-hour training. Number one, how much does that cost? And number two, what kind of activities would an individual expect to engage with there?
Okay, so the cost varies by site. So I believe it's $650 to like $850, depending on where you are. And the type of activities, so we start out really simple we really just use a bar, and that's for to help the person start with orientation and detecting which way the bar is facing. So it's really shape recognition. We move on and advance to movement. So, moving things that are moving with the device, and you're able to detect those, like a ball rolling and which direction it's going. And then we just build up into orientation mobility type of training. So we're not doing orientation mobility like you would with a cane, a white cane. It's not that intense, but we teach people how to navigate, how to walk down hallways. Sometimes we'll go outside depending on, the weather, and the location that it's safe, because some sites like New York don't have a safe place to walk on the sidewalk around their building. Right. So, but the Chicago Lighthouse does. So we could do that type of training. So yeah, it starts very small, tabletop type things, and then eventually you're walking around different places.
Okay, so I'd like to share some memories from when I was at the Chicago Lighthouse witnessing some of this training happening, and I'll, if that's okay, and
yes, please.
Okay, I'll give a shout out to Misa, who was doing the training and has recently moved out to California.
Yeah.
Because I think she may be on this.
Yeah. Hi, Misa. Yeah, Misa is still with the Chicago Lighthouse.
She is still with the Chicago Lighthouse, but
she's still with the Lighthouse, but she's in California.
Yes. But yes, so Misa says big fan. So I don't know if she means of the show or of Dr.
I think
Grant,
of the BrainPort. I think.
Oh, the BrainPort. I
think it's the show.
I think it's the show.
Okay.
Yeah,
no, I think it's me. I think it's me. Oh, of the show.
Oh, there you go. There you go. So yeah, so this is my memories of Misa working with clients because she was doing the training at the time. I remember there was a table set up. Mm-hmm. It had a black felt taped across the top of it, and also on the wall that it was pushed up against, and white objects would be placed on the felt. Yeah. And so obviously at that point, you're giving good contrast because this user is somebody who's still learning to use the device. So the better the contrast, the better they're going to be able to feel those shapes on their tongue. So they will be sat there at the table and they will be looking toward where the objects are, and they will feel the shapes on the tongue, and they will be then describing the shapes, for example, circular, triangular, square, whatever, and then also reaching for those shapes to kind of gauge, the distance and relating that to how that's being presented on the tongue. Sure. So that was one of the specific activities that I remember happening, and I always enjoyed watching that going on.
Yeah, I know you're sharing memories, but I was thinking that I wish that you could visit us, because you would be so surprised to see the tape is all gone. We have a new Center for Prosthetic Vision, and we actually use the BrainPort to design it's our lab space. So everything is high contrast, and awesome. The doors are high contrast. So yeah, we finally ripped up all that tape, and we use paint. And it looks really great.
That's really cool. Okay, so you guys have really
we've advanced in the training now.
Sure. The other thing I remember, which I always enjoyed watching as well, was there would be mobility training going down a corridor. And so from how I remember it, there would be some black tape placed down the center of a corridor, again, to provide the contrast of a straight line. And the BrainPort user would be following the tape. With the BrainPort, they can feel the line on the tongue, and the idea is that they can walk in a straight line along that line.
That's
and
right.
I remember Misa following behind with her laptop, and the cool thing was, on the laptop, she had some software open where she was seeing what the camera of the device was seeing, but we're not talking like, just a regular image here. It was really an image that displayed the amount of contrast of different things.
Was it what was actually being drawn onto the tongue?
Essentially, I think you see that, and you also see like an image, but it's really a very kind of an image based on contrast of what's around. So the trainer can get an idea of what the individual user is kind of doing there. So I think there's some really cool kind of tasks which users get to do. Really good protocols in place for doing the training.
I had abbreviated training, but I recall doing trying to find a bottle on a table, and then the other one I recall is doing walking down the sidewalk and being able to see the contrast, following the line between like the grass and the sidewalk.
Nice.
And you can kind of follow that.
Yeah. We have a whole curriculum that we've studied it in our clinical trials. So I
think it's great that you guys provide the 10 hours of training prior to the purchase of the device. And yes, there is a cost in it, which is, but you do offer the 1 hour free. But I think it really, because this device, like you said at the beginning, at the top of the hour, this device is truly a trained device. This is not a device that someone can buy from Amazon, have shipped, and try it out. I think there's a lot of assistive technologies where, video magnification, you could sort of figure out on your own. Yeah. This isn't one of them. And so I love that you guys really recognize that and push it and do the 10 hour. Do you require people to do the 10 hours of training before purchase, or can I just call you and say, I've got 10 grand, I want to buy it now?
Yeah, no, the 10 hours is a requirement. It is that is approved by the FDA. because we demonstrated to them that was what was required. And I also like what you said, and that's something that I really like about the company, the culture of Wicab, is that they never want anyone to have the device that doesn't want the device, who's not going to use it. You know, we don't do false advertisement. Things like that have always been very important to the company, that this device is in the hands of the right users, because it's not for everyone, and everyone is not going to enjoy, you know, using this type of device. So we want to make sure that those who do want it and can benefit from it are the ones that are using it. And that's, I really like that. It's not about, you know, let's sell as many devices as possible, or, you know, you get one demo and then that's it, you know, you're stuck with it. It's not like that at all.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah,
definitely can't be said for all companies out there.
No,
we will not name names.
No, just all of them. Okay, well, unbelievably, we have reached 12 o'clock. So our time has really flown by today. Yeah. Thank you.
We're very entertaining.
Yeah, well, yes.
I mean,
we try. We fail most of the time, but we try. Thank you so much for joining us, Dr. Grant. Do you have any closing thoughts? Any final wishes? No, that sounds a bit too grim, doesn't it?
I know.
Do you have any final words?
Do you have any closing thoughts for us and for our guests today?
Well, thank you so much for having me on the show. It's been a blast. It's always nice to talk about, you know, things that you're passionate about and working on. So I appreciate the opportunity, and thank you to the audience for being so engaging and asking really great questions.
Yes.
So, and again, my information is in the chat, so please reach out. The other thing is, if you do the screening questionnaire, someone will call you and talk you through everything. Now, that's another part of this, is that you get a lot of individual communication prior to even making the decision to come here, you know, to come to a training site. So
excellent.
So thank you.
So just to verbalize the contact information, wicab.com is the website, WICAB.com, and Dr. Grant's email is pgrant@wicab.com. Chad says, okay, hold on. Dr. Grant, your information didn't actually go in the chat because
it didn't. Maybe I put it somewhere. Okay.
I'm gonna go ahead and do it here.
No, you're fine.
I see it. Okay.
For some goofy reason, it likes to default to panelists only.
It's so annoying. So hold on, let me just make sure I get the email address. Okay, so I think Dr. Grant, that Chad might be reaching out to you. So again,
yes, please do.
Yep, so wicab.com and pgrant@wicab.com would be the email address. All right, let's close this up. So thank you for joining us, everybody. We will be back in 2 weeks' time, when I think we're going to be looking at accessible television.
Yep, so focusing on probably Apple TV and Roku. Not Roku, Amazon Fire Stick.
Yes.
And we'll talk a little bit about audio description and all that.
The plan is we're going to sit here for an hour and watch TV. So if that's cool with you all and you want to join us, then please do.
infocus@vision-forward.org. Let us know what your favorite movie is.
Yeah, we'll just stick it on.
Popcorn.
Wait, I just thought there may be some issues with copyright regarding that.
Forget it. We're too big. Not gonna mess with us.
I have one last thing to add, if that's okay.
Please do.
I didn't mean to break that up, but we have an ongoing clinical trial in France. So if there's anyone, I don't know if you have an international audience, but if you do, you can contact me about that as well.
Okay, excellent. Any French viewers, please get in touch with Dr. Grant
and let us know. I'd be curious to know if you have any French.
I wonder where.
Yeah, you could bring me back for I could a recap on our clinical trial.
We would be more than happy to have you back. We would be more than happy. It's been a pleasure. Let's just quickly give a bump to our YouTube channel here, youtube.com/infocustechnology. You will find a recording of this session, plus of all of our other Tech Talk sessions going back to last year. We've been doing this a while now, and you will find nicely produced videos on all sorts of assistive technology devices and topics.
Last week's was pretty good.
Well, last week's was pretty good, but sadly our numbers do not reflect the quality of our content.
I'm going to ask everyone that's here. I'd love go to youtube.com/infocustechnology. I want you to watch the last video that we did about iOS games that are accessible. Games, I want you to check out the wonderful and crazy editing skills of Luke, who has, with our green screen, put me in the video game. It's pretty cool. So it's a good video to begin with, but go check it out.
It doesn't come in. It comes in like 12 minutes through though, so just be aware of that particular part. But yeah, go check that out. Why not? Like I say, you can watch a recap of this video if you would like to.
I would.
Well, yeah, I think we'll both be doing that straight after the show. And with that being said, thanks again, Dr. Grant, and we look forward to seeing everybody in 2 weeks' time.
Thank
you.
Thanks for joining us for another Tech Talk Live. If you enjoyed Cory and Luke's antics, join us again in 2 weeks. To register, visit vision-forward.org/Tech Talk Live.